Welcome back. This is my year 4 lessons, 2 year 4 lessons on perimeter in the summer term. So by this stage, year 4s would have learned a whole bunch of different strategies to calculate numbers. And in this term, we're going to consolidate that and apply it to perimeter. So we don't want to really push them any further. We want to see what they can do, the different skills they can have to access the learning, to show off their learning. So this is the 2 lessons that we focused on. I'll go through them now. So as always, I have the curriculum link down the bottom, so I know exactly what they're meant to be doing, what they can achieve. Perimeter is generally not hard. It's not the most difficult skill in maths, but it's something that you do need to revisit twice in the year. If you just do it the once in the autumn term, it'll just become quite lost and blank when those tests come near the end of the year. So we're going to dive into this. You saw this in the last video. This again, just the year 4 program of study. That's what the curriculum says. So I have here just a different style. I have the background there so children know how the books are looking. They need to write the aim and date. The starter here I've taken from Twinkl maths, which they just have 3 different types of starters for every day. Very useful. I have that there. It doesn't relate to perimeter in any way, which can kind of be a bit of a question mark. But by this stage in the year, I wanted children to recap random facts. So that's the starter. Children come in, they do the aim and date, then they go straight into answering this in their books. I want to make teaching quite simple, quite quick. I'm just going to snip and paste these starters. I'm not going to think too much about it. So they write the starter main activity. Nice presentation. And there's, of course, an extension for students who finish on time. I've also then developed throughout the year a SEN starter as well. So this I usually print off and then give it to the teaching assistant who has the one-to-one or a group, and that's their starter. It's much more aimed at their targets. So I always now have, in the summer term especially, 2 different starters. Again, I'm using this. This is the year 2 curriculum from the Twinkl Maths resource bank. So that's the year 2 work there. All right, so we have different success criteria. Again, it's much different from measurement, which we did in autumn term, where we were just saying I use my ruler from 0 to This one is a bit more abstract, and I would go through the students what these means, what each one means. So as you can see, I like to keep my screen very tidy, nothing that's going to be too intrusive. I got this skill here because I know they're going to be adding sides that have half, and that's a very important skill. So I'll just be saying my turn. I'm going to do my halves first, 1. I'm going to also represent this in different ways. I might do 22.5, but I'm going to keep it with a fraction at this time. So that's a 1, and then of course 22 and 8 is 30. I sometimes keep it with number bonds, just to keep making that connection. Students waste so much time counting when they don't need to. They should know the number bonds there. So it's my turn, then I simply do that, and bam, here we have their turn. So give them time to do that. They can see it modeled, they can come back to this, and they can apply it over here. All right, I know this is the same number sentence, but I'm just going to change that. So that's how I'm going to start the lesson, just sort of recapping what they know and don't know. Here's some more recap. This is a typical question that some tests may ask about perimeter and area, because they've also accessed area by this stage in summer, and they can confuse both. So whiteboard work, and they're just going to answer the next few questions. I'm not going to go through them all because I don't want to take too much time. This is a slide which I put in there just to see if they remember the strategies that we took in autumn term. Are they going to add up them all independently? Are they going to chunk number bonds? Will they do a 6 and a 4? Realize it's a 10. Or will they do 6 and 6, which is a 12, and then do it that way? I'm just curious to see what they remember and what their preferred strategy is. And there's nothing wrong with both. There's nothing wrong with both. We can kind of push number bonds because it increases speed. I like to be explicit about that with my students and tell them why we do different strategies. Now we come to quite a busy screen. I don't particularly like busy screens, but what I want to see here in this lesson, in this stage in summer, is students applying different strategies to find the same answer. So I'm going to say that Tom is trying to find the perimeter of this rectangle, and he's done a few different methods. The first method I'm going to name is going to be the one that we did in autumn, the bar model. You can also just do the part whole model. But we have the bar model here, and I've done both versions, the long version and the short version. So if you recall in the autumn term in my lessons there, that I did both there. I've also now introduced this distributive law, which is also part of the Year 4 curriculum that they've touched on before. That's why it's so casually placed in there. But I can say 6, 2 lots of 6, adding 2 lots of 4 equals 20. So I'm going to say the distributive law is also a strategy to do this. I always ask students to write the working out. Sometimes I say this lesson isn't about the answer. So students will say, oh, but I know that that's going to be 20 centimeters. Why am I doing the working out? I usually say that the lesson is to prove how you got to the answer. You have to show me how you got to the answer. So that's what the lesson is about, the actual proof that you did this, because anyone could have got a calculator, that kind of thing. So I usually tell students it's about the process, not the outcome. And I've also named this method, which is mental maths, and we can apply mental maths, 6 and formula. So mental maths is a strategy, distributive law, bar model. My way around talking about mental maths is to say that it's a bit more risky because you can make mistakes, and then the teacher can't see where you made the mistake. If we did distributive law, if they wrote if they were meant to write 2, but they accidentally wrote a 3 there, or they did a 2, but it looks like an 8, then I can see, oh, that was a mistake here, and that's where you went wrong. So it helps me to go into their mind and see where exactly they got it wrong. So that's what I want children to see. Actually, I recall now, I would have in the past done the shape and covered it up in that nice sort of pink color and reveal each strategy one by one. So yeah, I don't like the busyness. Now I'm going to tell students that I want them on their whiteboards to find the perimeter, but using each method. So I want them to show me the bar model method, and I want them to show me distributive law. I want them to get used to both strategies. Again, both strategies. I'll leave this blank because then I eventually do it. But I won't go through it all. You know I'm going to be doing. So again, I want students to get used to those methods. And there's another one. And you can see I'm purposely moving these shapes around. Control G, just to group it. I'm purposely moving this around because these are how shapes may be presented in books, in tests and books. We come back to this question. So this is where students, this is with the extension, activity 3 of autumn term. We're just coming back to this. How could I figure this out? And I don't want students to, I want students to struggle with this, and then I'd model that. Okay, so if it's 14, I'm going to be using the bar model, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to be try working that out. Then we have a first taste of our sort of problem solving. Match each rectangle with its missing measurement. Well, if I know that's 40, I'm going to do 14. I'm going to double that. I'm actually going to do this on the board. I'm going to draw the arrows there. So that's 28. And then I need to add whatever's there. So I really like to come, I like this sort of really close feature that Smart gives me. All right, so then we have this question. And this I think I got from, I don't know where I got this from. But again, I'm wanting to see if students can access number bonds, and I want them to make those clear connections. We can say 12 plus 8 plus 2 plus, it's going to take too long. I'm going to actually circle them. I'm going to do that. 8 and 2 is a 10. I'm going to write that on the side. I'm going to collect all my number bonds on the side. 8 and 2 is another 10. 12 and 8 is a 20. And 6 and 6 is 12. So I can just tell the students that's a very easy calculation I can do. I would say distributive law is probably not the best one to do here. It's just take too long. So now I'm going to give students a piece of paper that they're going to follow along with. And I want them to kind of go through that. Actually, sorry, that's next lesson. But they're going to now have a number of, where's the actual task? Did I glue it? So yeah, so here's the task, and you can see just regular shapes trying to find the perimeter. Nothing special about the working out here, but it's just very standard, and I want them to show the working out. So that's how the examples. That's how I want them to lay it out. Distributive law, bar model, they can choose. That's the point of the lesson. I don't care about them I do care about them getting the right answer, but I'm more interested in the process of them doing it. And I'm always to show this on the board. It's left there so children know how to set the work out. And then we have the answers, which I always have the answers for maths up. I don't know why, I just find it very useful. And then the plenary, of course, I use TestBase just to grab what it looks like in a test. All right, so that's lesson 1. Now lesson 2. This lesson is much more focused on reasoning and problem solving, and it's probably the final lesson in the year 4 term that we will be doing this. Here we have the questions in their books. They write the aim and date. There's the starters, main activities written down below. Again, we have it for the lowers or the special educational needs. I recall this lesson, and I recall that this particular child couldn't access this one. It was a bit too confusing. All right, there we go. So I've started using module coding, so using pictures to explain different concepts. These are widgets, which I got from the LGFL, London Grid for Learning website. There's a lovely free widget tool that you can just type in things. And yeah, we're going to just came up with these words mean. Nice recap. My turn. Watch as I count the perimeter. I'm going to do it from 2, 3, 4, 5. I might skip that by mistake and then children do it. Now it's children's turn. I have made a sheet that's purposely built for my turn, your turn. I want them to physically do that. It might be a bit similar, but this, I remember when we were doing it, this was a big problem, and I wanted children to come back to this and just secure that gap. My turn, we're now going to compare, so of course I count that, and we're going to talk about comparing. Their turn, number 2 on their sheet. My turn. Their turn. So there's activity 1. I have it on the board. I always just say, this is what your activity looks like, so they're familiar with it. And activity 1 begins, but I know that activity 2, the highs and mids and highs, I need to be challenged more. But this is for students who didn't understand this in the autumn term or the previous day's lesson. So then activity 1 begins, finished, question mark, double check answers, collect task 2 from the floor. And I have a picture of the task so they know what it looks like. I just find that so important. Now this is for the mids to highs, and we can start to do that. So we did come across this in the summer term. Tom wants to find the perimeter, but he's missing the length of a side. Can you help? I'm going to actually physically drag that. I know that's 4 centimeters. I know that's 6. So 4 and 6 is 10. All right, I'm going to write the missing one there and finish the bar model. Another one that's on their sheet. Now, so the green dot means it's on the sheet in front of them. I don't mind sharing these resources. That's absolutely fine. So if someone wants to contact me, let me know. Okay, so we're just recapping what was the extended extensions in autumn term at this moment. All right, so then we're coming up to this very important process in maths, which is explaining the answers in more detail. So Danny thinks there isn't enough information to work out the perimeter of the shape 12, 10. So you need to find these missing sides. Is Danny correct? Now, I've actually then put in this because I want them to see what it looks like in their book. So I've actually done this where I write the answer. I can write a poor response, or I can write something much more thoroughly. And I've got it written up there, just in case I forget on the spot. I'm not going to read this out, but you can pause the video. And this is how I would expect students to start to write their reasoning. They definitely are not at this stage, but this is what we want to aim for. I'm just going to make this bigger so you can see. This is what we want to aim for, that students can actually articulate themselves and understand mathematical concepts much more easily and feel confident to say this stuff, because they don't feel too confident. So let me just make that bigger so you can read that. I'm just going to, you can pause the video to see how I would expect them to write. So pause it there if you need to. But that's a really important point in the lesson. I always say everyone pencils down, looking at me, watch how I think this through. And I want them to just watch me and think that through. Then that's the activity in front of them. So they know what it looks like before they get it. I'm going to say we have the exact same questions here. I actually think I just copy pasted this onto the slides and changed the numbers a bit. Then we have the reasoning problem over here. I remember that there's no more. Yeah, that's fine. So there's the plenary, and that's it for the second lesson and the final lesson of perimeter. Oh, yeah, there's the test. And then if they did challenges, I have it over here. That's it. Hope that helps.